in circular pipes or steady flow in pressure conduits. So we mainly discussed and focused on laminar flow in circular pipes. So if anybody having any question from that lecture, please ask. In that lecture, we actually discussed initially Reynolds experiment, where he differentiated between laminar, turbulent, and transition flow by plotting a graph between head loss and velocity. And then he found that when he was increasing the flow, so he achieved more Reynolds number, critical Reynolds number, and when he was decreasing the flow, he achieved lesser value Reynolds number, later on to be, which were considered to be the true Reynolds number, because whatever is the order of flow, the flow remains laminar below the lower critical point. Then he defined the other certain parameters. He found that in laminar flow, head loss is proportional to velocity, is a straight line relationship, and in turbulent flow, it is again proportional to velocity with n slope of line is 1.75 to 2 with smooth to smooth to rough pipe. Then we derived the expression that is under root tau naught over rho is equal to under root fv square over 8. We also then further discussed laminar flow. We derived the expression for velocity in laminar flow. Local velocity at any radial distance r, maximum velocity in the at the center of the pipe, and the average velocity half of the center line velocity. We also discussed the entrance conditions for laminar flow, and we discussed there that once the if water fluid enters or liquid enters the pipe having laminar flow, so it takes certain length to achieve the fully developed or established laminar flow. Before that, it's a developing length where the flow is developing, velocity is a developing profile. So these things lecture, please ask. Any question from your side if you have from the previous lecture, please ask before I move to the next today's lecture, where I will try to complete this topic, because we are left with one more week. So next time we'll have the next topic to cover. So any question from your side, please ask. So the slide of this lecture, ये जब ज्वाइन करें अगर क्वेश्चन नहीं है तो अपने माइक काइंडली बंद रखें ताकि डिस्टर्बेंस लेक्चर के दौरान ना हो.
एक्सक्यूज मी सर.
जी जी
सर, स्टेडी फ्लो हम इस तरह कह सकते हैं कि जिसमें इनफ्लोज और आउटफ्लोज इक्वल हों.
हाँ, इसमें ये है कि जैसे कोई टैंक है उसमें साइड पे पाइप लगा है, या जैसे कोई रेजरवायर है उसका आउटफ्लो हो रहा है, इनफ्लो भी होता है. तो जब हेड चेंज नहीं होगा इसका मतलब इनफ्लो आउटफ्लो बराबर है, तो वो स्टेडी फ्लो की सूरत ही है. ठीक है.
ओके सर.
After this lecture, you will be available with the recording in few days, and you will be also having these slides with you already. So go through them, and if you have any question, anything that need to be understood or some clarity, so the question may be asked later through WhatsApp group, through CR, before the next lecture. Okay, so today we'll discuss the turbulent flow through circular pipes. So in the first week's lecture and also today's lecture, if some mistakes are there in the text or in writing the formula, so that you should correct. I will mention during the lecture कि यहाँ आपने ये करना है, कुछ बीच में है चीज़ें वो आप उसको correct कर लेना अपने इसमें भी text में है इस तरह लिखा हुआ जो. So later you can correct them in your slides. तो इसका बेहतर तरीका ये होता है कि you should download the slides, you should keep with them. If you can take the hard form printouts, so that is better, ताकि वहीं पे आप उसको note कर सकें. Secondly, it includes derivations, numericals. So again, repeatedly I am saying that you should do it with your hand, so that you can understand various steps, and later on when it's asked in the exam, you should be able to answer accordingly. जो भी डेरिवेशंस एंड न्यूमेरिकल्स इसमें दिए गए हैं, जो बाद में असाइनमेंट दी गई है, वो आपने खुद से करनी है, ताकि जब आपको एग्जाम में कोई इस तरह क्वेश्चन है तो आप कर सकें उसको. Turbulent flow through circular pipes. So first of all, you should know what is the turbulent flow, how it is different from the laminar flow. So in this type of flow, fluid particles, again I will repeat over here in the last lecture I will describe this thing. In case of laminar flow, we have the movement of fluid molecules. Molecules, they move across from one layer to other layer, and they exchange the momentum. As a result, viscous shear stress is developed. But in case of turbulent flow, instead of movement of molecules, we have the movement of the fluid particles. Particles are the group of molecules, or we call them the finite fluid masses. So when the particles they move, so they cause the turbulence, they cause the eddies formation, and as a result, they interchange their momentum, exchange their momentum, and accordingly they produce the turbulent shear stress. So the basic difference actually between turbulent and laminar flow. In one case we have the molecular movement across, and in the turbulent flow we have the particles of the fluid which are moving and intersecting each other's path. In this type of the it is a type of flow in which fluid particles, finite masses of fluid, they do not move in lamination, they do not follow distinct path. Instead, the paths of the fluid particles are intersected. In this flow, our inertial forces mean velocity are dominant and viscous forces mean viscosity are low. This type of flow occurs at very high velocity, as I already mentioned. Now, if we can differentiate, we can further describe these two flow with this diagram. If you consider part A of the diagram showing the velocity profile near the pipe wall portion. Why is the distance extended from the pipe wall? There is a layer of the fluid at a distance y1 from the pipe wall with the velocity, where the particles are moving with velocity u dash. There is another layer of the fluid which is at a distance y2 more than y1, where the velocity of the fluid particles is more than that at layer 1. It means that this is the fluid with low velocity, and this is the fluid wave with high velocity. Now, when to the high velocity layer, so because its momentum is lesser and the momentum in this layer is more, so it will tend to retard the particles. And similarly, when the particles from the upper layer will go to the bottom layer, from high velocity layer to the low velocity layer, they will tend to speed up the particles moving in this velocity layer. So when they will cross this imaginary surface AB, so as a result of their crossing and as a result of laminar flow, this is the viscous shear, and in case of turbulent flow, this is the sum of viscous shear and turbulent shear. This is the difference between laminar and turbulent flow. Now, this is the imaginary surface AB, which has to be crossed while moving from lower to higher layer, higher velocity layer, or higher velocity layer to lower layer. So in this case, in case of laminar flow, the molecules of the fluid are moving across this surface AB, resultingly the viscous shear is developed along this surface AB. In case of turbulent flow, instead of molecules, if you see the particles, group of molecules, finite masses of fluid, they are moving across from low to high velocity layer and vice versa, and as a result, they will have the formation of eddies or turbulence, and resultingly turbulent shear stress will be developed across along this surface. A and B of the figure for laminar flow, where velocity increases with y, while the fluid particles, which are the finite masses, are moving, AB is lesser as compared to the molecules moving above this line, as shown in this diagram. Therefore, molecules which cross from below tend to slow down faster moving fluid, and molecules which cross line AB from above will tend to speed up the slower moving. This results in production of viscous shear stresses along the surface AB, given by Newton's equation of viscosity. So this is the case of laminar flow. However, in turbulent flow, in part C of the figure, turbulent flow is explained, where instead of fluid particles move across line AB, and turbulent velocity of any fluid particle, turbulent flow velocity of any fluid particle fluctuates both in magnitude and direction. So remember this, in case of laminar flow, the velocity of the fluid particle is unidirectional, axial only, but in turbulent flow, it fluctuates both in magnitude and direction. As a consequence, a multitude means many, multitude of small eddies are created by viscous shear between the adjacent particles. So when the particle will move from one layer to other layer, low velocity layer to high velocity layer, and vice versa. So a multitude of eddies, turbulence, curved surface, you can say, they will form. These eddies grow in size and then disappear as their particles merge into adjacent eddies. So in this way, water roller motion of water will take place, liquid will take place, and eddies they will form, turbulence will form. Thus, there is continuous mixing of particles with consequent transfer of momentum. So this is actually the final result when this continuous mixing of particles will take place. So there will be transfer of momentum, and this will cause the turbulent shear stress. Next is shear stresses in turbulent flow. So let us consider typical shear stress distribution diagram in turbulent flow. It is similar to the shear stress distribution in laminar flow. The only difference is that the total shear stress tau at any radial distance r from the center line is the sum of viscous shear and turbulent shear. Tau naught is the wall shear stress at distance r naught from the center line, and it is linear variation of tau with r. So there are two main theories which describe the shear stresses in turbulent flow. So in turbulent flow, the shear stress distribution is similar to laminar flow. That is, it is zero at the center and maximum at the pipe wall. The total shear stress at any point or distance from radial distance r from the center line is equal to the viscous shear plus turbulent shear stress, where viscous shear stress is due to molecular momentum interchange given by the Newton's equation of viscosity, and turbulent shear stress is the result of exchange of momentum of the fluid particles. Already I have explained this thing. There are two important theories which describe the shear stress in turbulent flow. One is the Boussinesq, which in the book is given as the first expression given for it is the Prandtl's mixing length theory. So let us discuss them one by one. The first expression, that is the Boussinesq theory, says that the turbulent shear stress is proportional to velocity just like the viscous shear stress. But the only difference is that the constant of proportionality in laminar flow is absolute viscosity, and in turbulent flow it is eta, which is called eddy's viscosity. So turbulent shear stress is equal to eta times dO dy. dO dy is the velocity gradient. Eta is the eddy's viscosity, and it is not constant for a given fluid at a given temperature, unlike the absolute viscosity, but depends on the turbulence of flow. So eta depends on turbulent flow, does not depend on the temperature. It is also termed as a coefficient of momentum transfer. Its magnitude may be range from 0 to many thousand times the value of mu. So it's very large in case of turbulent flow. Now the total shear stress in turbulent flow is, as I already mentioned, it is sum of the viscous shear. So viscous shear is the Newton's equation of viscosity, and turbulent shear is given by the Boussinesq. So combining both, total shear stress in turbulent flow is mu times dO dy plus eta. Tau is dO dy will be common, mu plus eta, or tau is dO dy plus rho v, rho into nu plus rho into epsilon. So in terms of kinematic, in terms of viscosities, F and eddy's viscosity, we this expression is the total shear stress in turbulent flow given by Boussinesq. And in terms of kinematic and epsilon and eddy's kinematic viscosity, we have the second expression, where mu is the absolute viscosity, eta is the eddy's viscosity, nu is the kinematic viscosity, and epsilon is the kinematic eddy's viscosity. In turbulent flow, the local axial velocity fluctuates in x, y, and z direction, as it is mentioned over here. So you can see it will fluctuate in x, y, and z direction, and the mean value of the velocity at any particular instant is given by this formula. It is clear that there can be no value of v next to and perpendicular to the smooth wall. I will explain this point later as well. So what is saying that if you consider any pipe like shown over here. These are the walls of the pipe. This is the center line. What is saying that near the wall of the pipe, the fluctuation of the velocity is not there, because velocity particle cannot move to the y-axis or z-axis, especially y-axis, because this is a solid boundary. So normally near the wall portion, very close to the wall, the velocity will be unidirectional. So that makes that near the pipe wall, even in turbulent flow, the flow will be laminar. तो turbulent flow में भी पाइप वॉल के करीब चूंकि वेलोसिटी कम होती है और दूसरा वेलोसिटी का कंपोनेंट एक ही होता है, यूनिडायरेक्शनल है, एक्सियल वेलोसिटी है, तो यहाँ जो है फ्लो जो है लैमिनार होता है और इसके बाद जो है फ्लो टर्बुलेंट होता है. So same point is explained over here. So it is clear that there can be no velocity next to value of v dash, that is component of velocity in y direction, next to and perpendicular to smooth wall. Therefore no turbulent flow will exist there, and shear stress only will be due to the laminar flow, that is viscous shear. However, at some distance from the wall, such as 0.2 time r, the value of du over dy is small, and viscous shear becomes negligible as compared to turbulent shear stress due to large value of eddy's viscosity. At the center of the pipe, du over dy is 0, so the total shear stress is also 0 there, and hence in turbulent flow or laminar flow, the shear stress is maximum at the wall and decreases linearly to 0 at the center. This is how we can make the shear stress distribution diagram both for turbulent and laminar flow. Now the second expression, Prandtl's mixing length theory. Prandtl introduced the concept of mixing length in turbulent flow. It is defined, this mixing length, it is defined as the transverse distance of a fluid particle to the direction of flow before having its original momentum change to suddenly acquire new momentum to set up the shear stresses. If you look at this diagram, so if you consider the particle moving with velocity u, any distance y1 from the pipe wall, and you consider the particles moving with u plus delta u velocity, more velocity at any distance y2 from the wall, so the delta y is y2 minus y1, this is the mixing length. So mixing length is a transverse distance, this is the direction of flow, transverse to it, this is the mixing length, and it is the length between the particle having the original momentum and having the new momentum. जब पार्टिकल जो है उसका ओरिजिनल मोमेंटम ये है, जब ये पार्टिकल इस लेयर में पहुंच गया तो इसका नया मोमेंटम आ जाएगा इस लेयर के हिसाब से, इस वेलोसिटी के हिसाब से, तो वो जो डिस्टेंस ट्रेवल करेगा ओरिजिनल मोमेंटम से न्यू मोमेंटम गेन करने तक, दैट इज द मिक्सिंग लेंथ. सो दिस इज द एवरेज वेलोसिटी एंड correspondingly du over dy is the velocity gradient. So du over dy can be written as the u over L, and mixing length is average mean velocity over du over dy. According to Prandtl, mixing length is proportional to the distance from the pipe wall. So L is proportional to y. Y is the distance extended from the pipe wall on either side. Introducing the constant of proportionality as k, which is universal turbulent constant, and its value near the wall is 0.4 that we can use. According to this theory, turbulent shear stress is given by this formula involving the mixing length rho L square du over dy square, that is the turbulent shear stress. Now the total shear stress, this viscous shear plus turbulent shear, viscous shear is from Newton's equation of viscosity, and this is from the Prandtl mixing length theory. Combining both, total shear stress in turbulent flow is du over dy, taking common mu plus rho L square du over dy. Now if you combine this theory giving the turbulent shear stress and the other theory giving the turbulent shear stress, so we can write eta du over dy is rho L square du over dy square, or eta eddy's viscosity is rho L square du over dy. So these are the two theories giving you the turbulent shear stress and the total shear stress in turbulent flow, Boussinesq theory and the Prandtl mixing length theory. Now further, let us discuss the entrance conditions for turbulent flow. So just like we discussed the entrance condition for laminar flow, same is the concept over here, that when a fluid enters into a pipe having turbulent flow initially, so what happens? Up to distance xc from the entrance, we have the laminar boundary layer, and within this laminar boundary layer, initially we have, if you take this section just at the entrance, there will be no frictional effects, and the velocity profile will be rectangular. As we move further, so because of the frictional effects, shearing stresses between the fluid and the internal wall of the pipe, velocity becomes zero at the wall, and it increases up to distance y from the wall, and then becomes again constant in the central portion, which is the central frictionless cone, having thickness maximum at the entrance and minimum at the point where boundary layer joins the line. After distance xc, the boundary layer, laminar boundary layer changes to turbulent boundary layer, and the rate of change of turbulent boundary layer is higher as compared to laminar boundary layer. तो ये ज़्यादा जल्दी जो है वो बढ़ेगी turbulent boundary layer जो है laminar की निस्बत. And within the laminar boundary layer also, if you see, we have the velocity gradient in the portion near the wall, which is the boundary layer, and in the central portion we don't have any velocity gradient and shear stress, having the constant velocity of the particle within the central portion. Now then next, when this boundary layer from both sides of the pipe wall join the center line, so this is the section where we have the fully developed velocity profile for turbulent flow, and we have the fully established turbulent flow. From entrance up to this section, we have the developing length in turbulent flow, we have the developing turbulent flow. Now another thing very, very important that I will describe in the later slide. Even the flow is turbulent, but near the portion of the pipe wall up to very small thickness, because number one, the velocity component is only along the flow, and secondly, velocity is very low. So there will be laminar flow within this small layer of the fluid near the pipe wall, which is called as a viscous sublayer. Its thickness is very, very small, but its effect is very large or very great because it is having laminar flow. Now outside this layer, we all have the turbulent flow taking place. So this is the explanation of this diagram, which is further explained in the text as well. Consider a pipe of uniform diameter d connected to a reservoir with rounded entrance. The flow is turbulent in the pipe. As liquid enters the pipe, it may be divided into two portions. Number one, central frictionless cone, having zero velocity gradient and shear stress. We have fully developed turbulent velocity boundary layer in which and shear stresses. Initially, there will be development of laminar boundary layer as it's shown in the figure, having zero thickness at the entrance, and it increases along the distance from pipe entrance up to distance xc. We have the laminar boundary layer. Now, after this distance or at this distance xc, laminar boundary layer changes to turbulent boundary layer. This distance can be determined from local Reynolds number equal to 500,000. So we know this Reynolds number at this point. We can find xc putting the value of Reynolds number 500,000. Knowing the velocity and kinematic viscosity, we can find xc distance. It is a distance up from the pipe entrance to a point where the laminar flow changes to turbulent flow. Laminar boundary layer changes to turbulent boundary layer. The thickness of boundary layer increases. Finally, it meets the center line at a particular section where the is fully consistent, fully developed, and flow is fully developed turbulent flow, fully established turbulent flow. What is developing length in turbulent flow? Developing length in turbulent flow is the distance from the pipe entrance to the section where the turbulent flow is fully developed. Within this, and the turbulent flow is unestablished or not fully developed. It is experimentally found that developing length in turbulent flow is approximately equal to 50 times d, where d is the diameter of the pipe. Then viscous sublayer or laminar sublayer. when the flow is turbulent through the circular pipes, there always exists flow adjacent in a very thin fluid layer. The thickness of this layer is very small, only few hundredths of a millimeter. So its thickness is very small, 1/100 of a millimeter, but its effect is great because of very steep velocity gradient. So इस small जो layer है, within this small layer adjacent to the pipe wall on both sides, velocity varies very quickly, very steeply with the distance y or distance r. Viscous sublayer exists as there can be, these are the reasons why this sublayer exists. There can be no turbulence next to a smooth wall because of the solid boundary, since it is impossible for lateral component of velocity to have any value at a solid boundary. This is one reason. Secondly, there is zero velocity at the wall and very low velocity near the wall, making it a laminar flow. So these are the two reasons of existence of viscous sublayer or laminar sublayer. Now, if you plot the velocity profile from the pipe wall, considering flow as fully laminar first, and then plotting another profile considering fully turbulent flow, we will get a point where these two profiles, if you look at this figure, if you consider fully laminar flow in the pipe and velocity formula, we can plot this velocity profile, that is u versus y. Y is the distance extended from the pipe wall. And then if you consider fully turbulent flow and using the equation of turbulent velocity, later we will derive so we can plot another diagram, this one, laminar from laminar to turbulent. These dots, these circles, experimental data. So when the experimental velocity was found near the wall and extended in the distance extended from the wall, this change is not sudden, it is gradual, and this change starts from point A instead of point B. So by experimental verification, it is found that the true laminar zone is only up to point A with a thickness of the boundary layer sublayer, laminar sublayer as delta dash sub L. But theoretically, it is point B where the change occurs from laminar turbulent, and the thickness of the sublayer is known as nominal thickness of viscous sublayer. And up to transition C, this is the thickness, this is the total thickness up to the transition that we can also find by the formula. So this is the thing explained over here. Experimental data points show that change is not abrupt but gradual. Nominal thickness, true thickness of viscous sublayer and thickness up to transition zone are given by this formula. So these are the equations that you have to memorize, remember, to find the nominal thickness, true thickness, and thickness up to the transition. 11.6 nu over under root tau naught over rho, 3.5 70, and the remaining parameter is same. Nu is the kinematic viscosity of the fluid, tau naught is the wall shear stress, and rho is the density. Tau naught over rho we know equal to Fv square over 8, so we can write nominal thickness of viscous sublayer is 11.6 nu over under root Fv square over 8, or we can write it is V under root F. Now looking at this equation, we can say that with the increase in velocity, the thickness of sublayer will decrease. Similarly, with the decrease in kinematic viscosity of the fluid, the sublayer thickness will decrease, and when we will have more velocity, Reynolds number is more. So ultimately we can write with the more Reynolds number, lesser will be the thickness of sublayer. So thickness of viscous sublayer decreases with the increase in Reynolds number. Now, what is the use of this nominal thickness of sublayer? One of the main use is to differentiate between hydraulically smooth and hydraulically rough pipe. So let me define what is hydraulically smooth pipe, what is hydraulically rough pipe, and what is the in-between condition. So remember this practically there is no mathematical smooth surface in reality. Mean there is no surface available which is absolutely smooth, where there is no projection or where there is no roughness. So there are always projections on the internal surface of the pipe, the average height of which is known as absolute roughness. So the roughness of the pipe, internal surface of the pipe, is known as absolute roughness, indicated by this letter E. The height of projection we call it. Absolute roughness or height of projection of the internal surface of pipe. Hydraulically, smoothness and roughness of pipe depends on the comparison between absolute roughness and nominal thickness of sublayer. So this is where nominal thickness of sublayer is used to define hydraulically smooth and rough pipe by comparing it with the absolute roughness. So if the absolute roughness of the pipe is less than nominal thickness of sublayer, mean these are not part of the sublayer, so it is a smooth pipe. And if the absolute roughness is more than the nominal thickness of sublayer, so sublayer will be disturbed or it will be broken up. It will be broken up. So that will be the rough pipe. So by comparing E and this sigma L, we can define hydraulically smooth and rough pipe. Same is explained over here. A surface is hydraulically smooth if height of projection remains less than nominal thickness of viscous sublayer. That is, projections do not pierce through the viscous sublayer. उससे बाहर नहीं आती, तो ये smooth pipe होगा. If the projections extend beyond the sublayer, the viscous layer is broken up and surface becomes a rough as shown in the figure. Part A of the figure shows smooth pipe, while part B shows the rough pipe. So ये smooth pipe है और ये rough pipe है. Now hydraulically smooth and rough pipe. So more precisely, more we can say conceptually, a hydraulically smooth pipe is the one for which nominal thickness of viscous sublayer is greater than 6 times the absolute roughness. That is the criteria to check the smoothness or roughness of the pipe. A wholly rough pipe, on the other hand, is the one for which nominal thickness of viscous sublayer is less than 0.3 times the absolute roughness. So this is the criteria for the wholly rough pipe, fully rough pipe, hydraulic rough pipe. Now if the condition is in between, that is the sigma L, nominal thickness of sublayer is neither greater than 6C nor less than 0.3, that is, this is the condition, the pipe will neither behave hydraulically smooth nor wholly rough. So this is the case for. Now we have learned previously that for a given pipe decreases with the increase in Reynolds number. तो Reynolds number बढ़ाने से thickness of sublayer कम हो जाती है. इसलिए similarly, hence the same pipe which will behave as hydraulically smooth at low Reynolds number and rough, the same can behave as rough at higher Reynolds number. तो एक पाइप जो है वो जो कि हाइड्रोलिकली स्मूथ है एक सर्टन रेनॉल्ड नंबर पे, लो रेनॉल्ड नंबर पे, अगर रेनॉल्ड नंबर बढ़ाएंगे तो वही पाइप जो है वो रफ पाइप भी हो सकता है क्योंकि सिग्मा एल कम हो जाएगी. Now let us discuss velocity profile in turbulent flow. Anybody having any question? So up till now we have discussed the turbulent flow, theories of turbulent flow, and we have discussed the concept of sublayer, viscous sublayer and hydraulically smooth and rough pipe. अब तक किसी क्वेश्चन हो पूछ लें. Anybody having any question up till now, please ask before I move to the next. Consider a circular pipe of diameter d, radius r0, and considering a turbulent incompressible fluid flowing in the pipe and having a turbulent flow. We have the viscous sublayer in turbulent flow already defined with the nominal thickness sigma L. Delta. This is the shear stress distribution in turbulent flow. Tau is the total shear stress wall, and it is outside the viscous sublayer. Mean at this point, there is a turbulent shear stress present. Tau naught is the wall shear stress. U maximum is the maximum velocity in turbulent flow. This is the typical turbulent velocity profile. Same is explained over here through a circular pipe of constant diameter d. Take a point P close to the pipe wall, but outside the viscous sublayer, as shown in the figure. The total shear stress at this point is tau, which is tau viscous plus tau turbulent. As in case of turbulent flow, viscous shear stress is very low and it may be ignored. Therefore, at point P, the total shear stress is approximately equal to turbulent shear stress. That is, tau is nearly equal to tau turbulent. As the point is very close to the pipe wall, so tau is nearly equal to tau naught, which is equal to tau turbulent. So we have taken two main assumptions over here. Number one, we are saying that, and these are the valid assumptions, in turbulent flow, the total shear stress, which is actually sum of viscous shear and coefficient of viscous shear is very, very small, we can ignore it. So we can say tau is nearly equal to tau turbulent. Total shear stress is nearly equal to turbulent shear. Secondly, because the point is very close to the pipe wall, so total shear is near. We already said that tau is nearly equal to tau turbulent. So this says that tau naught is equal to turbulent shear stress. So instead of tau turbulent, we can put over here tau naught. Now, according to Prandtl's mixed length theory, tau is rho at u. We know that L is the mixing length, which is equal to K into Y. K is the universal turbulent constant, and its value is 0.4 near the pipe wall that we can use over here. Putting tau turbulent is equal to tau naught, this one. Putting L is equal to K into Y, we can write K square Y square, and remaining with the same. Now, writing this equation in terms of du, taking the under root on both sides, so this square will be cancelled with under root. So du will be equal to under root tau naught over rho. This rho will go to the denominator. This y square will become y, and it will be 1 over y on the other side, and this k square will be k, and on the other side it will be 1 over k. So putting the value of k, 1 over 0.4 is equal to 2.5. So this is how this expression has come. Again, I will mention repeatedly, I have said this, that you should do the derivations with your hand and numerical with your hand so that you can understand better. And when you ask in the exam, you should do it. You should be able to do it. Now, if you take the integration on both sides, so we can write u is equal to 2.5 tau naught over rho ln of y plus c. Integration of 1 over y into dy is ln of y, natural log of y. C is the constant of integration. Now, if you want to find the value of c, we can apply the boundary condition, that is, when r is equal, y is equal to r naught, get center line. Y is from the pipe wall to the center line. So when y becomes r naught, so u becomes u maximum. So therefore, from equation 2, if you put u is equal to u maximum and y is equal to r naught, so we can write u maximum is equal to 2.5 under root r naught ln of r naught plus c. So from this we can find the value of c. So c is u maximum minus 2.5 under root tau naught over rho into ln of r naught. Now putting the value of c from equation 3 to equation 2 over here, so we can write, and also putting y is equal to r naught minus r. Y is r naught minus r. So ये दोनों अगर put कर दें equation 2 में, we can write this. U is 2.5 tau naught over rho ln of r naught minus r plus u maximum minus 2.5 tau naught over rho ln of r naught. So we can take 2.5 under root tau naught over rho as common. So remaining will be ln of r naught, because हमने ये minus बाहर लिया है, तो ये वाली term plus हो जाएगी और ये वाली term minus हो जाएगी. So it will be ln of r naught over r naught minus r. And we know that under the equation, memorize the equation of velocity in turbulent. base. So we can change this natural loss to base point. We multiply with 2.5. It will be 5.75. Involving the expression of u is involving the logarithmic term. So that's why remember this. The velocity profile in turbulent flow is logarithmic. Velocity profile in turbulent flow is logarithmic, while the velocity profile in laminar flow is parabolic. So ये दोनों में difference है. In the next slide, the comparison is made between turbulent velocity profile for rough pipe and smooth pipe. Slight difference is there, and mainly this is differentiated from the laminar velocity profile. Laminar velocity profile is parabolic, and turbulent velocity profiles, they are logarithmic. Now if you look at and one is the region near the center of the pipe. So firstly, near the center of the pipe, it is mentioned that laminar, the turbulent profile is much flatter near the central portion of the pipe and steeper near the wall in contrast to the laminar flow. So near the more change in velocity is there at small change in R. That's why the turbulent velocity profile is steeper near the wall and turbulent velocity profile is flatter near the central portion where there is less change in velocity with more change in R, radial distance. In case of laminar velocity profile, it is less steeper as you can see in near the wall and more steeper near the central portion as compared to turbulent flow. So this is the comparison between laminar velocity profile which is parabolic and turbulent velocity profile which is logarithmic. Next thing is relationship between average velocity and center line velocity. So we can consider a circular pipe of diameter d. We can consider ring-like or annular, ANNULAR, annular or ring-like differential element of the fluid having thickness dr and distance r from the center line. At the level of this element, we have the tau as shear stress and u as the local velocity. This is the average velocity, u maximum is the maximum center line velocity, this is the turbulent velocity profile, this is the shear stress distribution in turbulent flow. Let us consider u as the local velocity of a differential annular fluid element, ring-like fluid element having thickness dr at distance r from the center line, and dA is equal to pi r into dr is the area of the element. The discharge through the element is dq, it is u into dA. Putting the values of u, that is the turbulent velocity, we have derived the expression, we can put over here, and the differential area of the element is 2 pi r into dr. Now taking integration on both sides, like shown over here, we can find total discharge Q, and integration of this entire term, it will take obviously more steps, and we know that V is Q over A. So putting this expression as well and simplifying it, it will take a few more steps to simplify. So I have just written the final outcome. So V is average velocity in turbulent flow is u maximum minus 3.75 tau naught over rho under root. This thing you have to keep in mind, this expression or this expression. So V is u maximum minus 3.75 fv square over 8 under root. Further, we can write u maximum. V is equal to u maximum minus. So multiply this with the under root 1 over 8. So it is 1.326. V square, V will be out under root f. So equation 4 or 5 you have to keep in mind. दोनों में से एक equation आपने याद रखनी है. That is the relationship between average velocity and maximum velocity in turbulent flow. Ratio of V over U maximum is called as the pi factor, which is 1 plus 1.326 under root f. This is called as pi factor, and its value is 0.5 for laminar flow. Because we know that V over U maximum is 0.5. Yeah, V is 0.5 times U maximum in laminar flow. So this pi factor is 0.5 for laminar flow, and this is equal to 1 over 1 plus 1.326 under root f for the turbulent flow. So this is about the different derivations for having, please ask now. So I will see if you have anything to ask, anything which is still need any clarity. So in these few minutes, you should go through it, and I will continue this lecture afterwards. Whatever we have discussed. So before I move to the next thing. Okay, so next.
हम उसको कह सकते हैं ना कि दिस इज आल्सो ड्यू टू द विस्कोसिटी ऑफ अ फ्लूइड।
विस्कोसिटी ऑफ द फ्लूइड का जो है शुरू में उसका इफेक्ट तो है जाहिर है, लेकिन जब वो खुद एक टर्बुलेंट फिनोमेना बन जाता है तब उस टर्बुलेंस की वजह से जो एडिशनल शियर आती है डोमिनेंट। ठीक है जी, क्लियर है?
यस सर।
जो उसको इनिशिएट कर रही है टर्बुलेंस के फिनोमेना को, वो तो विस्कस शियर ही है। जो टर्बुलेंस का फिनोमेना इनिशिएट हो जाता है उसकी वजह से जो टर्बुलेंस आ रही है और उसकी वजह से जो पार्टिकल मोमेंटम इंटरचेंज हो रहा है और वो जो है टर्बुलेंट शियर को क्रिएट कर रही है, वो जो फैक्टर टर्बुलेंट शियर वाला है दैट इज मच मोर प्रोमिनेंट इन टर्बुलेंट फ्लो देन द विस्कस शियर। तो इस वजह से यही लिखा हुआ है ना कि टर्बुलेंट जो टोटल शियर स्ट्रेस है टर्बुलेंट फ्लो में वो सम है विस्कस शियर का और टर्बुलेंट शियर का। लेकिन विस्कस शियर जो है उसका पार्ट इनिशियली तो है, लेकिन उसकी ओवरऑल जो कंट्रीब्यूशन है इन टर्म्स ऑफ मैग्नीट्यूड या वैल्यू आप कह लें वो उतनी ज़्यादा नहीं है जितनी के टर्बुलेंट शियर स्ट्रेस की इटसेल्फ है। ठीक है, क्लियर है?
यस सर।
एनी अदर क्वेश्चन? Okay, let us continue where we left. So last thing to discuss in this is the pipe roughness or how to determine the friction factor. So we'll discuss in this case Newcoratze's experiment first, and then we'll discuss various other methods to determine the pipe roughness. Starting who was a German engineer and student of Prandtl, he performed experiments on artificially roughened pipes. So what he did actually, he considered various diameter artificial uniform sand, basically uniform sand, and he coated internally with closely packed uniform sand grains. What are the significant features of this diagram I can discuss over here. As a part of the experimentation work, he found the discharge as volume over time, velocity as Q over A, Reynolds number Vd over nu, and F friction factor by the Darcy-Weisbach equation, etc. So he found that up to Reynolds number 2000, it is the laminar flow, laminar zone, and within this laminar flow, friction factor only depends on Rn, which is 64 over Rn, and it is the linear relationship, straight line relationship. Then he found that from 2000 to 3000, it is a zone of critical flow or zone of uncertainty, where we can have we have the possibility of both laminar and turbulent flow. Then he said that for turbulent flow, there can be two further possibilities. For the zone turbulent smooth flow from 3000 to 100,000 Reynolds number, he found that again there is a linear straight line relationship between friction factor and Reynolds number, and friction factor is only dependent on Reynolds number. For turbulent flow 100, and for the same Reynolds number 3000 to 100,000 is smooth rough pipe. So for turbulent rough flow, the friction factor is function of both Reynolds number and E over D. This is, you can say, sort of transition zone. And then we have the full turbulent flow. Within this portion, when Rn is greater than 100,000, he found that friction factor is only dependent on E over D and it is independent of Rn. So these are the different features of this diagram which have been explained over here in the text. According to the diagram, up to Reynolds number 2000, flow is laminar and 4 over Rn, and is a function of Rn only, and it is independent of pipe roughness, as can be seen in the diagram. From Reynolds number 2000, 3000, the flow is critical or uncertain, may be laminar or turbulent. From Reynolds number 3000 to 100,000, there can be two possibilities. One is turbulent smooth flow, turbulent flow with smooth pipe. Friction factor is only function of Rn and is given by Blasius equation as given in this. For the same range, Reynolds number 3000 to 100,000, and for turbulent flow with rough pipe or turbulent rough flow, friction factor is only function of both Rn and E over D. This is the transition zone where friction factor is only function of Rn and E over D. Beyond Rn value of 100,000, beyond Rn value 100,000, friction factor is independent of Rn and only depends on E over D. So these are the features of this Nick-Radze diagram. So this is Nick-Radze diagram I've explained over here. Determination of friction factor, next thing. Why we need to find the friction factor? What are the uses of friction factor actually? Number one, to determine the head loss in pipes. So in most of the equations, if you see, if you want to find head loss, like Darcy-Weisbach equation and others, we need to find the friction factor to find the head loss in the pipes. To estimate shear stress, we know that in the formula of shear stress, friction factor is also part of it. That is under root tau naught over rho is equal to under root FV square over 8. So there also we need the friction factor to determine it. To analyze the turbulent velocity profile, we know that in turbulent velocity equation, friction factor is also involved. FV square over 8 wala factor वहाँ पे है. So we need F to analyze the turbulent velocity profile. So these are some of the uses of friction factor. Methods, and secondly, we can use Moody's diagram, very famous diagram, to be used for the friction factor of the pipes, to find the friction factor of the pipes. So in this we can have the simple approach, direct method, where all the data is given. We just have to go to the diagram and find the unknown factor. And second is where some of the data is missing and we need to use the hit and trial method to use the Moody's diagram and then find the final friction factor value. So let us discuss them one by one. First of all, using empirical equations. So we already have covered few equations. Some of the other equations are also given for different conditions of the pipe flow. Like for laminar flow, we know that the friction factor is a function of only Reynolds number, which is 64 over Rn. For turbulent flow and Rn between 3000 to 100,000, we can use Blasius equation to find friction factor. Von Karman gave the equation for turbulent smooth flow with this condition that sigma L is greater than 6 times E and Reynolds number is greater than 4000. So this is the equation that we can use to find the friction factor for turbulent smooth flow. Another equation given by Von Karman, that is for turbulent flow with wholly rough pipe. This is the condition for it, and this is the equation to be used for this purpose. Colebrook equation is for transitional pipe where pipe is neither smooth nor rough. This is the condition for it, and this is the equation that we can use to find the friction factor. Now using the same equation, Moody's found these friction factors for various conditions and he plotted this diagram between friction factor, Reynolds number and E over D. So if you look at this diagram, it has 4 zones up to Reynolds number 2000. It is a laminar flow where the friction factor is only function of Reynolds number 64 over Rn. From 2000 to 4000, he said it is going to be the critical zone of uncertainty, where the flow may be laminar turbulent. And then from this 4000 up to certain value, this is the line of demarcation. This is the transition zone. And for transition zone, he has given certain value for F, certain relationship between F, Rn and E over D for smooth pipes. These few lines for smooth pipes, and then the other lines for the complete for the rough pipes. And away from this line of demarcation, we have this complete turbulence zone. So within the transition zone, friction factor depends on both Reynolds number and E over D. And for complete turbulence zone, you can see these lines are horizontal, showing that the friction factor is only function of E over D. It does not depend on R. Another thing that you can see, if you compare the transition zone of Moody's diagram, where the friction factor is decreasing with Rn and E over D, and if you compare with this transition zone of the Nicoretze diagram, you can see the contrasting difference, where the friction factor is increasing with the increase in Reynolds. The reason is that Nicoretze used the artificially roughened pipes. तो उसने खुद से उनको सैंड ग्रेन्स लगा के रफ किया था. एंड मूडी यूज द न्यू commercially available pipes to make the diagram. So ये इनका मेन डिफरेंस है. Moody diagram is a graphical representation of friction factor number and relative roughness EOD. Friction factor has been computed using its equation, which I have previously discussed. There are 4 zones of this diagram. Already I have explained. Laminar zone, where the friction factor is only function of Rn. A critical zone, where the value of friction factor are uncertain because the flow might be either laminar or turbulent. Transition zone, where the friction factor is function of both Rn and E over D. And zone of complete turbulence, where the friction factor is independent of R. In the diagram, the values of E used in the diagram are for new clean pipes. And for practical purposes, the value of friction factor may be in error of plus minus 5% for smooth pipe and plus minus 10% for rough pipes. This is the Moody's diagram I've already explained. Now, using the Moody's diagram, one thing which is noted, that there is a contrasting difference between Moody's diagram and Nicoretze diagram in the transitional flow zone, where according to Moody's diagram, F decreases with increase in Rn and EOD, whereas it is opposite trend in Nicoretze diagram. The reason I have already mentioned. Now, in simple method, using Moody's diagram, we are given with the size of pipe, we are given with the velocity, we can find out Rn, we can find out EOD, then you can use the Moody's diagram to find friction factor and vice versa, and we can easily determine the other things. Correct method. In hit and trial method, the unknown quantities are either diameter or velocity or both. तो इस केस में या तो diameter नहीं दिया होता या velocity नहीं दी होती या दोनों नहीं दिए होते. Reynolds number is unknown to us. In such cases, the problem may be solved by assuming either Reynolds number or value of friction factor to start with, and then obtaining the final solution by trial. तो उसमें हमने ये करना होता है, यार हम रेनॉल्ड नंबर की कोई वैल्यू ज्यूम कर लेते हैं या फ्रिक्शन फैक्टर की वैल्यू ज्यूम कर लेते हैं. और वहां से हम फिर शुरू करते हैं अपनी कैलकुलेशन को. better technique is, because F generally varies from 0.01 to 0.07. So we start with the middle value of F. So remember, ये topic है जो कि आपने खुद से पढ़ना है. You have half go through it, and if you have any question, you can ask later in the next lecture. So this is about the and the articles, so that you can easily have the statements available like this page and this one. तो यहाँ जहाँ जो भी relevant and see what is required, then write the appropriate shear. So the turbulent shear is total shear 8.43 minus viscous shear. You can see the value of viscous shear and turbulent shear. They are quite its value. Turbulent shear stress is very large as compared to viscous shear stress. Turbulent shear stress rho L square du over dy square given by the Prandtl equation. From this you can find the mixing length, and then L over R naught can be determined. So in this way we can solve this numerical. Next is 8.20. Again you are given with certain data. The velocity is given 3 meters per second. You need to find what is the distance at which transition occurs from laminar to turbulent. You need to find XC, where the Reynolds number is 500,000, and we need to find the thickness of the laminar boundary layer given by this formula at the distance XC. So data is given. We know that at distance XC, R and C is 500,000. Putting the values, we are given with velocity 3 meters per second. Kinematic viscosity is given to you. So this is XC we can find. This is the distance from the entrance up to which laminar boundary layer changes to turbulent flow, the turbulent boundary layer. Then at this distance, what is the thickness of sublayer given by this formula? We need just to put the value of XC and get the answer. Similarly, another numerical 8.27, you are given with the diameter of the pipe 2 centimeter. It's a copper tube of discharge 0.05 liter per second. We need to find head loss per 10 meter length of pipe is 10 meter. What is center line velocity? U maximum you need to find. Now submeter is given 0.02 meter, Q is 0.05 liter per second, which is 10 into 10 power minus 5 cubic meter per second. 1 liter is 10 power minus to find. V is Q over A. We can find this velocity. We can find again Reynolds number, as I mentioned. We need to find it first. Reynolds number is showing you the turbulent, because Reynolds number is between 3000 and 100,000. So considering a smooth pipe, we can use the Blaise equation. From there you can find head loss using Darcy-Weisbach equation. FL V square over 2GD. L is 10 meter over here. You can find out HL. You can confirm the answers by solving yourself. U maximum, we know the relationship between U and maximum and V. Putting the values, you can find U maximum, and then finally using the expression for nominal thickness of sublayer 11.6 nu over under root FV square over 8, we can find out the thickness of nominal sublayer. Nominal thickness of sublayer. 9, you need to find the head loss intensity. This is given to you. E is 0.85 and specific gravity of oil is 0.82. Viscosity is 0.0052 Newton second per square meter is given, and its flow is 40 liter per second. So many data is given. Determine shear stress called tau naught. Find the velocity 2 meter smooth. So we need to find out sigma L. We need to compare with E. And then the smooth pipe or rough pipe or transition pipe. So first of all, we find tau naught easily. We know that we can find discharge. We need, or given with the discharge, we can find velocity. Density is given to you. We can find our Reynolds number, which shows that it is a turbulent flow. Then we are given with E over D. We can use this R and N E over D from Moody's diagram. We can find out F. So this is a direct method, simple method of using Moody's diagram. When the length is not given, so that means you need to find head loss per unit length. Then you need to find tau naught. Tau naught is FV square over 8 into rho. Putting the values, you can find it out. And then you need to find out UN. For this, firstly you need to find U maximum. तो इसके लिए सबसे पहले U maximum ने निकालना है. This is U maximum, and this is compared with and put the value for putting the value of U over here. तो हमने U maximum की वैल्यू यहाँ पुट कर दी है, तो हम डायरेक्टली U निकाल सकते हैं इसमें से. Two equations have been used, one for U maximum and one for the U value. Then you need to find the sigma centimeter pipe that is given to you with velocity 5 meter per second. Head loss measurement indicate that F is 0.022. The friction factor भी दे दिया आपको. Determine the value of E. Find shear stress at the wall. Tau naught निकालना है, E निकालना है, and at R is equal to 4 centimeter. तो आपने tau naught निकालना है वॉल पे और at 4 centimeter from the center line. tau निकालना है आपने. What is the value dy? V is velocity is given, diameter is given, nu is given, so you can find out the Reynolds number which gives you the turbulent flow. Now, using this Reynolds number and using the F value, you can go to Moody's diagram and we can find the E over D. So we can find E over D over here. Then you can find from there E value. This is the first thing that you have to find, E. Then you can find out tau naught. We know tau over R is equal to tau naught over rho is F square. You can find tau naught. From there you can find out tau. This is the tau naught. Tau is tau naught in y. पहले स्टेप में जहाँ हमने वैल्यूज पुट की थी वो हमने करना यहाँ. You can put the value tau naught over rho. You can put the value of y. Y is r naught minus r. 10 minus 4. So this is the answer for du over dy. The last numerical that is similar to solved example 8.4. It is based on hit and trial method. You are to find the flow rate when the water at 15 degrees Celsius causes head loss of 0.25 meter. Head loss आपको दे दिया है in 100 meter of average cast iron pipe. इसका E value भी हमें पता चल जाएगा या दिया हुआ है. Diameter of the pipe is 15 centimeter. Diameter is given, E is given, and you can find use this formula and you can relate V with F. अब V भी नहीं पता, F भी नहीं पता, तो हमें ट्रायल लेना पड़ेगा. We can assume the value of F to start with 0.03. Based on it, we can find the velocity, we can find Reynolds number. We are given with E over D. Using this Rn and E over D, go to the Moody's diagram and again find F. Now, if the assumed F and the F found again, they are same, your trial is okay. If not, take another trial. For this value of f, find again v, again Reynolds number, again go to the diagram, find f again. If again this f and the previous f are different, again take another trial. So for academic purposes, for your exam, 2 trials are sufficient. तो यहाँ तक वो काफ़ी होगा. लेकिन और अगर ट्रायल लेना चाहें प्रिसाइज के लिए, वैल्यू के लिए, take another trial. Now you can see when the f value between in 2 consecutive steps comes same, it means now further trials are not required. So based on that, find f, v, and then find finally the discharge. So this is about today's lecture. If anybody having, this is the assignment that you have to solve. You can submit it after the exams in the psychomotor week. So you should group all my assignments in one folder. Just write the assignment number there in first page of the assignment, and you will submit after the exams in the psychomotor week. Similar is the case for the engineering assignments. उसको भी आपने इस तरह इकट्ठे करके एक ही में जमा करवाना है. और इस तरह CEP जो है आपकी वो भी आप जमा करवाएंगे उसी वीक में, और ओपन एंडेड लैब भी आप उसी में आके करेंगे और लेटर उसकी रिपोर्ट जमा करवाएंगे. सो दीज आर द न्यूमेरिकल्स एंड इसके जो सॉल्व एग्जांपल आपने इसमें करनी है. यस, एनी क्वेश्चन फ्रॉम योर साइड फ्रॉम टुडेज लेक्चर नाउ यू कैन आस्क. Yes, any questions from your side?
Is it practically possible that friction factor is independent of Reynolds number?
Yes, at very high values Reynolds number, there we have this, we have shown practically experimentally by Moody's diagram that friction